You probably clicked on this video because you're a procrastinator who wants to learn a language. You probably struggle with motivation to start learning the language or to continue learning. Maybe you think there's no way to really master a language unless you're a native speaker. What if I tell you that all of that is false? You can learn a language and you can keep improving until you're as close to a native speaker as you want to be. Let me build up my ethos a little bit. I'm a native Russian and English speaker, and I learned French in high school, and now I live in Switzerland, and I use it every day. I studied Japanese, I minored in Japanese in college, and can now look for internships there because of my language speaking level. I'm currently learning German and Italian, and maybe also want to start up on Toki Pona. And so I've done this many times. That's all I wanted to say. Considering that I've done it so many times, here are a few recommendations that I would like to give you guys. First thing is to start out with something structured and make it hurt a little bit, maybe. Enroll in a class. If it's paid, great. That'll force you to actually come to the class and try to get your money's worth. If there are grades, also good, if that's what pushes you. If there's deadlines, there's something that needs to force you into starting the language and forcing you into doing some of the exercises. I'm currently taking a digital education course in my master's program, and the first thing the professor told us was that cognitive activity is what makes people learn. So there's no trick around this. You have to actually put in the effort into producing this cognitive activity. And that is not an easy task at all, but learning is a difficult process. It takes effort and it takes time. And if you're a massive procrastinator like me, the more intense the course, the better, because you get to learn it faster and not have to struggle with all of that mental load for a longer period of time. So as an example, my first Japanese course was a 3-week intensive over the summer that covered material that normally people would cover over a semester. And all that semester material was compressed into 3 weeks. It was 6 hours every day, and we had quizzes every day, and it was brutal, but it was the best course in Japanese that I think I've ever taken, because it was the start. It was intense, and it helped start the whole process of learning Japanese to this day. I did the same with German this past summer, and the very first day that I arrived, there was 3 of us in a class, and 2 of the guys already knew a bit of German. I came into the class thinking that I know nothing. Like, I knew 0 German at that point. I came into the class and they were already around speaking levels. They already passed the first 12 classes in Duolingo. And I came into the class knowing absolutely nothing. And this was the best motivation to actually jumpstart my language learning of German. Within 3 weeks, after those 3 weeks, the professor, when he was asking for feedback, I said, oh, well, I mean, it's a lovely course. I mean, the fact that I knew no German at all, and then I came in here and I could understand certain things, it was telling of how well the course was. And he was like, no, but you knew some German. I was like, no, I had 0 understanding of what German was. And it's all because of the extreme situation. When you get thrown into the water, you have to try in order to not sink. And this works really well. So for other procrastinators, high-functioning procrastinators that do everything last second, that is what I would recommend. And now, on a slightly more contradictory note, you also need something that puts that pressure down. So if when you're learning there's this pressure of oh, you need to understand, you need to learn grammar, you need to learn all of this, there also should be something that keeps your motivation to learn that language up. You need to have something that keeps you wanting to learn the language when it gets tough. On those days when it's not clicking. You need to have something that you can go back to, a reason, a motivation why you're learning the language, so that you will continue learning it. Learning is hard and you will struggle, especially if you want to make the progress fast, which is what I wanted to do. So find something about the language that you genuinely love, something that you will never stop enjoying. For me personally, that was cartoons, which is kind of the reason why I started this channel, is because I love cartoons so much and how useful they can be for language learning. But they're the main reason why I started with French and Japanese initially. And there's just so much animation in those languages that I really wanted to understand it fully and to watch as much as I physically could. To justify my otaku-ness in terms of Japanese animation, this is currently my pajamas, Mononoke Hime. So find what you want, find what you enjoy, and kind of stick with it in that language direction. For me, it was cartoons. In that same German class, there was a guy who really loved trains. So half of the class we would spend on talking about Deutsche Bahn and watching a bunch of Deutsche Bahn videos, talking about trains, talking about railroad networks, having assignments based on that. Because the professor was a very great professor who knew that the best way to keep people motivated to learn a language and to keep them focused is if they're talking about something that they really, really enjoy. So now I have a bunch of random German network information. but it was fun. I mean, the guy was really passionate about it, and it motivated all of us to also learn German as well. Now for French, I also follow tons of French stand-up comedians right now on Instagram. So when I'm doom scrolling, their stand-ups pop up and I watch them. And since there's no English subtitles, I have to understand what's happening. And it keeps me motivated to understand, to keep learning, to understand the reason why I'm learning this language is to understand stand-up comics, understand comedy, understand movies, communicate with people. Like, this is the whole point. My Mandarin's not great, but I did traditional Chinese dance for quite a while, and there are certain things that I've picked up, and because of the fact that I really liked dance, that specific type of dance, I'm now very motivated to learn Mandarin because I've been surrounded by this community of people who often would speak Mandarin amongst themselves, and I didn't understand it. I have this desire to understand it. If only I've taken the structured Mandarin course around the time when I was part of those groups, but unfortunately I did not, so maybe sometime in the future. For you, it might be music, it might be K-pop if you're learning Korean, because that's an easy way to get into it. It might be movies, it might be podcasts, dramas, TV series, whatever. Maybe a single book that you're dying to read that doesn't exist in your native language. That's actually how I was teaching my cousin to learn English. She really wanted to read The Giver, and it wasn't translated into Russian at that time, so we would get together and she would read it out loud, and I would correct her every once in a while, she would summarize it, and we would gradually progress through the book. And she really enjoyed that. Because she enjoyed it so much, she actually was motivated to keep coming to classes, to keep reading, to keep interacting with this book and with this non-native language. Think about how a lot of people learn English, for example. My parents learned it through Friends, the TV series. A lot of people learn it through the internet right now with the sheer amount of material in English on YouTube or just in general. I urge you to find your form of entertainment in the language that you want to study, to let it pull you forward, to keep you motivated when times are tough. And now the last step of this process. You need to have something that forces you to learn. You need to have something that motivates you to keep going. But you also need to stop worrying at being at a native level. Understand that even native speakers are constantly improving. You do have an extra obstacle that you need to reach a solid language level quickly. But even my English and Russian aren't perfect, and they're my first language, they're my native language. I still have to maintain and improve them on a day-to-day basis. I grew up in the US, but both my parents are Russian, and in college I met a lot of Russian speakers, and now I'm even engaged to one of them. But being in those swim or drown situations is where I had to interact socially and improve my already native Russian, because you can always improve more. There's always more you can do. The goal isn't to be perfect, the goal is to continue improving. I hear this oftentimes, especially coming from a Russian-speaking community, where everyone kind of shames each other on their level of nativeness and blah, blah, blah. But I think the best way to learn languages is to just, well, I'm learning, and so are you. We're all learning. None of us are perfect. Like, just let go of the thought of people judging you. Let them judge. I mean, in a few years, your language learning is going to be phenomenal, and what can I say? Learn the language, focus on that, and ask questions. Like, even just culturally, I had to ask them to generate music playlists for me so that I can better understand Russian pop culture, or come up with movies to watch, artists to follow. It was a lot of cultural research that I had to do, which is easier to do when you're surrounded, when you're fully surrounded by people who can easily give you access to this pop culture. And it's a lot harder to learn from people who learned it themselves. It's a lot harder to learn on your own. The best way to learn something is to learn it from other people. So ask people around you. Find people who speak those languages. Go join their groups. And also there's a huge range of native abilities. Anyway, some people write better, some people speak better, some people suck at both, some people are phenomenal at both. What does it really mean to sound native? Instead of chasing this perfect ideal of, oh, I want to sound native and so on and so forth, focus on continual and gradual improvement. Put yourself out there, make mistakes, learn to navigate those difficult situations, and don't be afraid to show that you're still learning. I constantly ask people for clarifications, be it in Russian, in English, and French, like no matter the language. Don't be afraid to show that you're still learning, because everyone is, and I think we should all be more aware of that and less critical of, oh, your grammar is such and such, or you suck in this and this. No, everyone's learning. This is good. At least you're trying. Some people aren't even trying to learn a language. They still criticize. So that's it. Those are the 3 steps I guess I would recommend. The first one is to create pressure to make yourself study. The second one is to balance it with something fun that you love. And the third is to stop worrying about perfection. Language learning is hard, but it's absolutely doable, and I hope this motivates you to just start. And on that note, I also have a few videos about how certain animations can help with language learning. The ones that I have are Korean and Russian and Armenian, and watch those if you're interested. I also have a video on the International Phonetic Alphabet and how that can be useful to help with pronunciation. So check out some of my other videos if you're interested in language learning, linguistics, animations, cartoons, anything like that. And subscribe if that's some of the content that you'd like to continue watching. Thank you.